working back in the background.
There we go. There's recording. All right. So usually we have some sort of plan or scheme or discussion point, and I think tonight is just going to be it's the Frogiversary. So I think we can take questions from the field. We can have Bill and Zach talk about company history things, and we can talk about upcoming plans and everything else. And Edwin's got everybody's agendas for what projects are coming down the pike, and so let's do it.
Well, if you guys want to know, I should probably tell the origin story because it's actually kind of a fun one to hear. And I think we may want to wait a minute for that in case more people show up because a lot of the people here have already heard it. But basically, I got a phone call from Greg Vaughn on the morning of April 1st in 2010, and he wanted to. He was poking me because he'd written the Slumbering Czar. I'd already paid him for the manuscript and everything else, but he really wanted to publish it. And he had talked to people over at Paizo about doing a Pathfinder version of it, and they said they would support us, by shaking their tiny fists and telling their people to go buy it and stuff, but weren't really interested in doing a book that was that big. And so I got on the phone with Rick Sardina and Chuck Wright and Robert Altbauer. I didn't get on the phone with him. I got on some sort of, I think it was something that doesn't exist anymore that you used to be able to communicate like by text, kind of like Messenger does now on Facebook. But I don't remember even what the thing was called. It's something that I haven't used.
He got this piece of
at least. Do you remember what that
paper and this pencil, and he wrote down something, and somebody else read it. It was this really weird thing.
Got a stamp. The thing with Robert was he's in Austria, right? So you couldn't actually just call him, and he doesn't speak English that well, even though he reads and writes it more fluently than any of us probably. But and I basically said, okay, guys, I propose let's do this big book. And I need all of you to say yes, or we can't really do it because they were the guys that were going to do the various component parts. And I'll pay you something from $0 to X dollars, where X is a percentage of the project for doing the cover art, the interior art, the layout and the graphic design, and the cartography. And of course, basically, I paid these guys when we had failed to publish books at the end of 3.5 when 4.0 came out. So they all had some confidence in me. And they all said, yeah, sure, we'll do one book. And I go, it's a really big book. And I explained it. Well, fuck yeah, it'll be fun. And I said, basically, we had to sell $25,000 of this book in order to make it viable as a book. And so this is where I make the outrageous claim that I invented Kickstarter. I said this in a seminar last week and everybody laughed. And then I told the story and they're like, oh my God, you did Kickstarter before Kickstarter existed. And so basically I posted up on the Necromancer Board forums and on my Facebook page that said that, hey, we were going to do a basically a crowdfunded 900-page plus book for Pathfinder. And if we got a certain amount of number, if I didn't, and I said, look, we don't hit our number, which is about $20,000 to do as a kind of a minimum number to do a big giant soft cover version of it, then we're going to cancel it. I'll refund everybody's money. So anyway, after about 15 or 20 emails to me or messages to me or questions to me on the forum saying, ha ha ha, it's April 1st, good joke, Bill, blah, 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 blah. I explained to everybody that no, in fact, I was not kidding. It was not an April Fool's joke. And I had a team lined up to do it if there was interest. And that was at about noon, I guess, or 1 in the afternoon by the time I had all that arranged. I started doing this at like 8 in the morning. And at about 6 o'clock at night, I just kind of went away, figured we'd sell some, and I never thought actually we'd get enough money to do it. So I figured I'd just be refunding money. At about 6 or 7 at night, I looked at the PayPal balance and it said $48,000. And I looked at Krista and said, honey, we need a website and we need a web hosting guy and we need a new corporate entity because I think we just started a new company. And she's like, what do you mean? We have almost $50,000 of revenue that came in for this thing in the last 4 or 5 hours. And that was April 1st of 2010. And I still couldn't believe how rapidly it happened. And then by the time we were done on that, I think we sold the pre-orders. We had something like 1,800 of them, something. It was a couple $100,000 of pre-orders on Slumbering Czar, and that is how that's how the corporate entity or the LLC, I guess, because we're actually, I don't need to go into the business details on that, but we're an LLC under another corporate entity. Necromancer Games is the corporation. But we that's how the company was formed in a period of about 12, call it 12 hours start to finish. And then Krista and I stayed up all night and put together a terrible website on GoDaddy, and that had basically one product that wasn't really for sale because they had to PayPal me directly because we couldn't figure out how to do the sales thing on it. And we were off to the races. And then I still remember, so what we did then was we started publishing, then we published the Hex Crawl books from John Stater that I'd already bought the manuscripts for. We published the Splinters of Faith stuff that I'd already had the manuscript from Jeff and Gary, and in the same kind of interim thing just to kind of keep money coming in. And then that went on for about 4 or 5 months while we were releasing chapters of Slumbering Czar. And then it took us about 18 months, I think, to get the whole thing done. But we were doing it chapter by chapter. And then I guess last but not least, then the next thing that happened was Greg had also redone for Pathfinder Tome of Horrors, all 3 of the versions of it. We made the Tome of Horrors complete. And I printed 2,000 of them. And I remember writing the check to the printer for $45,000. Those of you who haven't seen it, it's another 900-page book. It's just like, it's like that big. And as I was writing the check, Krista goes, "Well, how much is the printer going to be?" And I said, "Well, $45,000." And of course, this was all coming out of the bank of Bill at this point. And she's tapping her foot and going, "This better work." And because at this point we didn't do any of our own fulfillment or anything. Paizo did it for us. It was out of their warehouse in Redmond. And 8 o'clock Monday morning, that book went on sale. And at about 10:30, I got a phone call from Lisa Stevens saying, "Bill, I need more books." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I sent you 2,000 of them. And she goes, "Yeah, we need more books." And we completely sold out of the print run in about 2.5 hours at $100 a book, which was also pretty cool. And they actually had to, they lent me money to reprint it because their royalties were sorted out through their accounting or anything like that in time for me to do it. So we had another print run of that done, and those all sold too. But so basically we had a really fast-paced and really interesting first 6 months for our company. And it was all because of the crowdfunding off of what people thought initially was an April Fool's joke of Slumbering Czar. And so that's how Frog God came into existence 14 years ago.
So, Bill, I would also point out,
tell them now that actually was a joke.
Given your 2 examples, Bill, I could also point out that apparently you're also in the making weightlifting equipment business. Question from the crowd.
What's the main? Yeah,
what's the deal with Necromancer and
about 8 or 9 pounds?
Yeah, it's a hefty tome. What's the deal with Necromancer and Frog God? Bill, do you want to just field that one quick?
Sure. So Clark and I started Necromancer in '99, and then we started publishing in early 2000, and then when he was elected to it, well, basically 4th edition happened, and we weren't sure what we wanted to do, but we knew we didn't want to publish for 4th edition, and then and he was elected to a federal judge position, and a lot of his constituents in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, in that area, don't like us Satan worshipers too much. And he really wanted nothing to do with the business. He's still, not in a malicious way or anything like that. But he didn't really want to do anything. And he told me I could publish and I didn't have to pay him. But of course, our corporate entity structure said that I had to pay him. And the intellectual property I wanted to keep separately because I didn't want to have new people, and my own new stuff coming out where it would be mixed intellectual property that was 50% owned by Clark. And so we put kind of Necromancer just as a holding company that actually owns an environmental consulting practice, and it owns a farm, and it owns a few other things too. But we created the separate LLC so we could separate the intellectual property between the two. And then subsequently later down the road, the partners and I bought Clark out. And so now we own both. That's simply, and that's the reason the difference between the two in its current entity, in its current form, are if it's a Lost Lands product, typically an adventure or a source book or the Gods books or something like that, it comes out under Frog God because the world setting is all licensed and not licensed but owned by the Frog God particular entity. And then we do rule books and spell books like the one we just did, and I think we have Edwin will go through the list more later on with you guys, but we do this stuff that's not specific to the Lost Lands through Necromancer. That's not to say that Necromancer products don't fit in the Lost Lands, because they do, and actually, even like, I'll talk about this a little bit more when Edwin gets to his stuff, but there obviously everything in our world is in the Lost Lands, but the stuff that's not specifically an adventure in or a source book for or a atlas for or something like that, the Lost Lands is a Necromancer product. Does that answer the question?
It's pretty sufficient. Well, I believe about half this panel just got back from previously aforementioned Concrud Generator. Any fantastic stories from anybody that are recording safe?
Well, I can say a few things about GaryCon. First of all, yeah, I've been deathly ill ever since, and so have like half the people that I know. A bunch of people were in the hospital actually with pneumonia. There was a particularly virulent virus going around there. There's several of the folks that were in my game. One of them's actually in the hospital right now. He's okay, but he's in the hospital. He had double pneumonia, and there's 4 or 5 other folks that said it's a really nasty cough. But the highlight of the show for me, and I mean this 100% wholeheartedly, was we were able, because there were so many of us there, we got a fill up, and so we determined that it was both cheaper and necessary to our survival to not eat restaurant food for 12 nights, and because of that, I was able to cook dinner for us and our friends, and we ran all of my games in the villa, where we were able to provide food and drinks and stuff like that to everybody for free, and I think it was really successful. And we had, in the 5 games, I think I had a total of 66 players or something like that, and very few repeats. There was only a couple of people who were in multiple games, so it was really neat, and there were a lot of people I'd never played with before, which made it kind of even more special. And so I think we sort of provided a better gaming experience than most people were able to, because we did that, and we'll certainly be doing that again at GaryCons in the future, and any place else we can get something where we have a room to ourselves. I think that we can do that, because it just made it more like made it more beer and pretzels D&D, where you were playing with your friends more than it was like some strangers in a con. And it was a really, as a DM, it made it really easy for me to run the games, because it felt so much more intimate.
The most common complaint we had was by far, for people at GaryCon, was how loud it was in the main halls and in the main ballrooms. There is no way Bill could be in a place like that, because 1, he's old, can't hear that well, and 2, more importantly, he's loud, no one else can hear that well. Yeah. And so it worked out real well. It would have been nearly impossible to have him 12 people in the game. And he's not wrong about the food, because the places at GaryCon, even the cheap cafe, was about $20 for a hamburger. You could get food that also, they had like a carts, but we were there 11 days, and it would have been just a giant pain in the ass. So I was really grateful for that, and I was grateful for the fact that Bill didn't have to get beat up by a bunch of other DMs for being too loud. That also made me very happy. I thought that was a safety thing. That's what I'm gonna call it, safety thing. So. Yeah,
it's the first night we went over, and my game was in a general population room, and I had 16 players, and I just took one look at that. I was like, this isn't going to work. I mean, it's just not going to work. The other 3 tables in the room are going to have a really bad time, and it's hard on your players too, because they can't hear, and you're not, it's just tough. I had a couple other real highlights that were meaningful to me. One is I got to spend some time with Kelsey Dion and her wife, and what a lovely young couple ladies they are. Actually, the Shadow Dark, if those of you don't know, and it was really they were genuinely just really nice young ladies. I think they're well young, meaning they're probably not that young, but they're young compared to me. And really smart and really sharp and just really interesting to talk to. Really creative young gal. And then the other folks I got to meet I had a real fun panel about Kickstarters with the four guys from Legends of Evantris, and then Steve Chenault, and then another fellow named Patty something or other. The guy who does the Irish D&D mythology stuff. I can't remember his last name now, but Evantris, for those of you who don't know, is the largest role-playing game Kickstarter in history. It was like $7.5 million or something, right? And it's these four dudes who, like, Steve and I were joking that the four of them were not as old as the two of us, and I don't think they actually were. It was their very first Kickstarter, but it was Mickey Gilder's the head of creative and the marketing guy that they had there, and Mikey Gilder. And I just got the chance to speak with him quite a bit at the show. They're again really impressive young folks coming up in the RPG game industry, and I think I made some friends there with some of these younger folks. And of course, I'd be like, okay, you got to give me advice on how the hell do you guys do this social media advertising. I'm going to have our guy talk to you, and stuff. And they were totally willing to help. We'll probably do some cross-pollination advertising, that we need more than they need, but I'm sure it'll help them too. But again, they were really gracious. It sounds egotistical, I guess, but I'm gonna say it anyway. But it's really ingratiating for me when I get on a panel with them or with Kelsey. Like when that's how I met her, was a panel at another show. And they come up to me afterwards and they're like, "Oh my God, I've been a fan since I was 10 years old. It's so nice to meet you." And it's like, dude, you're the one who did $7 million in your first fucking Kickstarter. You're a stud, right? And but they were big fans of Frog God. They were too young to know what Necromancer was really. But it's really neat to see sort of what I'm going to call the third generation coming up. Because I think Steve and I are probably what you'd call the old men of the second generation, right? We were the first two guys that are still around. David Kenzer as well. The first three guys who are still around from when, third edition happened, with an actual core company still in business. And but some of these new folks they're definitely they're smarter than we are about how to sell soap and how to do advertising and where to look. And I think there's a lot to be learned from them, but it's funny because we compared like how many Kickstarters we'd run, and I think we're up to something like 72 or something, and Steve's run like 44 or something, and then the guy from Ireland, Patty, had run 2, and these guys had run 1. And so the seminar topic about how to run a successful Kickstarter was interesting because Steve and I represented 95% or something of the Kickstarters in the room. But theirs was the biggest one ever, so it's like it was good to meet some of those folks. That was a huge highlight for me.
I had honestly never been to GaryCon before. I had a great time. I got to meet a lot of people, got to see a lot of people whose names I recognized from the backs of books. I got to run a couple of great games that no matter how bad I tried, I managed to make them fun in spite of my failings. As mentioned to some of our friends, I went with 3 of my buddies, and 3 of us went to a gaming convention. I'm pretty sure the 4th guy went to college for the weekend, because I think the earliest he made it to bed was 3. So that's apparently also a side challenge at GaryCon, is how many days can you see the sun come up in Wisconsin in the wintertime. So that was a challenge.
You made Zeb Cook laugh.
I made Zeb Cook laugh. I'm proud of that. That was a great one. Mentioning he was wearing a Dogs Playing Poker t-shirt, and I pointed out that I have that as a poster, except they're playing Hackmaster instead, which he got a good firm chuckle out of. So thanks Dave Kenzer for the assist on that one. We did have up there a question: any interest in merging, unifying Necromancer and Frog God? If somebody wants to answer that, I can give my understanding, but I think it's just we're good having 2 companies, and
we're good having 2. Really, and one company owns the other company, so it's really one company. But we were using it for product line branding mainly at this point.
And Jen had a good point, because having 2 companies allows us to run crowdfunding projects simultaneously, one for one company, one for the other.
Yeah. Plus, we get to have a really big banner with both of them. Also with
Well, and
go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna.
So Guacamole here is saying that there's a little bit of confusion about this, that, and the other, and of course, any publicity is good publicity. So we like that confusion.
Got to keep my 4th level spells going.
Right.
So I'll ask Bill a question. How many years were there between the end of Necromancer to the beginning of Frog God? Was the end of Necromancer about 2008?
About 2008. So it was probably somewhere between a year and a half and 2 years. I don't think it was 2 full years. And what I did in the interim was I bought all of the back stock from Lords and from Kenzer and from White Wolf. So because we had partnerships with them, right? So I had to buy out their piece. And so I bought all that stuff and was literally running an eBay store selling 3.4, 3.5 stuff. And I just couldn't quite figure out how to get to the, what system I was going to publish in. Because of course, you guys can imagine me taking a look at Pathfinder and just shaking my eyes crossed.
You've got a couple years of gaming on me, and that was essentially my response to 3rd edition also. I looked at it and went, this looks like a really great game for people other than me.
They used to make me run 3rd edition games at Gen Cons and stuff. And to say that was humorous, because the guy'd be like, "Why do this?" I'm like, "Okay, roll." And he'd be like, "All right." I go, "Do you make it?" I have no idea. I have no idea. The monster hits you for 22 damage. I pretended like I was using the rules, and I really just wasn't. But everybody, I pulled it off. Everybody thought I was, I think. Most people did.
That was my first experience with Levi Combs. I thought I'd signed up for an AD&D game, and apparently I signed up for a 5e game, and I can step, and this is like 7th, 8th level characters. This is not an intro game. And I told everybody I can walk away. It's my fault. And there were a couple guys at the table that were a little shaky on whether I should be there. Levi told me to stay. He's like, "Don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. You can game. You know how to game. Just tell me what you want to do. Throw a d20. We'll figure it out." And eventually, everybody kind of warmed up to me. And the next day, Sunday morning, one of the other players at the table walked up to me and he's, "Man, when you had no idea how to play 5e and you sat at that table, I really didn't like you." And then there's just this awkward silence before he goes, "But you ended up having a really great time. I had a lot of fun playing with you. You had kind of infectious energy, and I'm glad it turned out that way, because that's not how that conversation with that guy started." So, yeah, that's absolutely. That's last game hole. Similarly, I ran for Edwin. You probably know Salzwedel. I ran for Salzwedel and his kids, and that was basically just like, what system we were running. I'm just making stuff up. We don't know. I took a map out of one of our adventures and just used that map and made up every room as we went, and everybody had a grand old time. They found a magic dagger, and it was all good. So, yeah.
We're running this system.
Yeah. Yes, this one right here. Saki in the chat, exactly. You want to be a better improv? Be a DM. Absolutely. Kingsley, some of my best gaming was around a campfire at 13
years old.
I'm a little
surprised at the...
Go ahead. What do you got?
I don't know who I'm echoing back off of, but I was just a little surprised to see that Kingsley is only giving half of DMing to being bullshitting. I think that's a nice a nice estimate there.
Well, some people also lean on the rule book for the other half, I guess. Some people, I don't know. Apparently you can get a lot of rule books if you look hard enough. You can find some eventually.
That's right. Well, and I hear there are a bunch of adventure books out there that you could use also to help run at your table.
There you go. I used a couple of those at GaryCon. I ran a chunk out of Whisper and Venom and a chunk out of Heart of St. Bathis. So, and as evidence of how well those adventures are written, I was very busy the week before and might not have read my adventures before I sat down at the table, and they both ran swimmingly. So that, you don't do that. You should definitely read your adventures ahead of time. But they both worked, and they're both in 5e. And
so what part of What part of Whisper and Venom did you run?
There is I think it's actually kind of a little prelude-y bit that's got a old chapel and the bits and the bits underneath it. So I basically just
Cool. Yeah.
What's that?
It started with the chicken, right?
No, that's from Splinters of Faith.
You're on the wrong adventure, Bill. That's Splinters of Faith. He's talking about Whisper and Venom in the Catacombs.
I see.
Yeah.
I know the guy who wrote it and the guy who edited it. They're both here.
Yeah, so I ran that. And I didn't even deal with the beehive or anything else out there, or the bee. I don't know, bee
giant bees.
Yeah. I just dropped them right into the church, and had them exploring there, and then went down in and just did that whole thing. So,
Giant bees just I'm afraid of bees. So that was a self-insert that I'm terrified of bees.
I didn't think about it so I use the same. I have 13 pre-gens at a number of different levels, and I just print them out before the convention, whatever I'm going to need for. So I don't even think it's one of each class. Put them on the table. I did not think about the fact that adventure is mostly undead, and they took the paladin and the cleric. So they did get done a little early, but everybody had a good time. It was it was 3:15 of 4 hours. It was that early, but it was good.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, there's some
Zach,
fun
are there
undead
many
there.
bees in Arizona?
Hmm?
Are there many bees in Arizona?
Yeah, they're all the ones that got the aggressive bees. We used to call them African, and I'm not sure how to do that anymore. So they're aggressive bees. We have those everywhere.
I actually cultivate and help and to propagate both paper wasps and all kinds of bees, because I've got my paper wasps tamed now. You can actually tame paper wasps, those of you who don't know, but
You do you, Bill. You do you.
We had 350 people at our summer party last year. Nobody got stung, and they're all over the place in nests around my backyard.
So Bill's out there with
my opinion.
he's got this little tiny whip that he's training him with.
I bring them dishes of sugar water in the spring, and they actually it's a threat not threat thing, but they start to recognize people, and they recognize me, and I can practically pet the damn things. I mean, they don't bother me in any way, and they're all over the place out on our deck. But yeah, we had a dinner party last night, where I basically sat huddled in a blanket most of the time, but we had a bunch of people over on the back porch, and 20 people or something, and again, they were all over the place, and I just let everybody know, again, just don't swat at them, just let them be. They're not after your food, and nobody got stung, nobody got bothered. They kind of came and checked people out, and then they split. I mean, they're tameable. The other thing, that extra added benefit is they kill yellow jackets, which is why I like them. So that's the reason that I started kind of helping them out anyway, because yellow jackets are, they just like to hurt people.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Our next supplement we put out, we need to have Guardian Wasp as a possibility for a familiar. Bill's swarm of Guardian Wasps.
It'll be the first swarm
I
familiar.
like that a lot. Yeah, you gotta feed them sugar water to tame them and stuff. I think that's actually, maybe I'll incorporate that into a game at some point.
That's terrific.
John insists that I'm a druid, because the first thing I said to him last spring when we started planning is I'm looking around, I go, John, there's just not enough bees. And he's like, Dad, you're such a fucking druid.
I did point out at GaryCon that I'm fairly confident that Bill is actually a hobbit, because he was just sitting there munching on his lunch, barefoot and wandering around. I'm pretty sure he's part hobbit.
Well, for years my boy looked like one, but not so much anymore. He looks more like an elf now.
See, if you'd have put these books on his head, he wouldn't have gotten that tall. You got to use the big books.
Oh, he's tall, that's for sure. The other thing I say about GaryCon, everybody, for the first time in years, all the vendors at GaryCon are very happy that it was successful in terms of sales. I mean, everybody. And they had really cool merchandise from the con. They had dice with crowns, which was really awesome, because I'm old and I found that to be very nostalgic. And so I could, take my white crown and, make sure I ink my dice. And I found that to be very zen. But they also I got a Hawaiian shirt with Beholder on it, and it was well done. Luke did a really nice job making sure that the they had to walk past all the vendors to get to the merch booth, and everybody who came by was pretty excited and happy to buy some stuff. And Alyssa's posters she made, we were selling with the RPG cosmology sold well, and it was really cool. And they had a display of that in the lobby, and it was they had to actually cut off the attendees because it was packed, and I don't think they can make it any bigger. They said they pushed as far as they could. They had people actually gaming in the hallways, which they'd done before, but not to the extent they did this time. And there was games everywhere. And the last night we played a game, I played Skeeter Green's Call of Cthulhu game, and it was down at the Timber Lodge, which is another hotel on the property that has a big water park and a barbecue restaurant. It's made for families. It's a family place, and so there's lots of screaming kids all around, and Skeeter Green, which you can imagine is a volatile combination. That's proud to say nothing bad
One more
happens.
screaming kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's absolutely true.
A couple things on that. One, I do know that they had sold out. They opened up more tickets when they figured out exactly what their capacity was going to be, because it happened to line up perfectly when one of my buddies ended up driving. Actually, it's the guy who drove me up. They were out of tickets, and they were announcing they were going to release like 50 or 60 more, and he managed to land one of those, and that was it. They were done. They were sold out completely. Apparently, you can usually buy them basically day of, and they were completely sold out in January or February, like first week of February. They were done. And then also regarding merchandise stuff, I will complain about one thing. I didn't know that these were going to be available until I found out after that I'd missed it. I would have totally got in on those Chuck Taylor All-Stars with D&D characters on them. Those look sweet. Got me some fly Chucks.
You're a nerd, Laramie. That's why we hired you.
Well, it wasn't my good look, sir.
It was a haircut, always.
What other questions we got?
Sorry, just sharing the sales at frogoutgames.com, and then we're also running sales at both brands at DriveThru. So I shared those links as well in the chat.
We had a question about whether we are looking to sell STL files or include STL files and things that we sell down the road, and I think we have some fun thoughts in that direction, but I was turned the question back around on Jedi Monkey to see what they were thinking about specifically. But I think only as it augments a specific project. I don't expect it to become sort of a general part of our sales path.
We did it with Rapinathic for the Kickstarter, and Tom Tellis made
Yeah.
the entrance to the Mouth of Doom, which was really awesome.
Yeah.
Made us when we printed the entire Rapinathic level 1C, we did that.
That was
for
awesome.
conventions. That got sold out from under us, surprisingly. So we don't have that anymore. But we enjoyed it. But that's not what we do as a company. We're not sculptors and we're not miniatures people. Though I like STLs a lot. It would involve us being like people like Tom, who would have the time or the inclination to want to help us make them. And so definitely wouldn't rule it out, but I don't know how big of a segment that is. That's something we can talk about in the future. Certainly I'm into it just because I like stuff. Stuff is fun. There has to be stuff that we can sell and don't have to worry about inventory and all kinds of other things. But that's something that was not off our radar as we had.
Yeah, if there's a specific thing that comes up, again, like the Rapinathic thing did or whatever, and Tom wants to be involved, we'd probably do it. But we make books. We don't really have anybody here who's an STL coder. And so it's not something we can add. I'm afraid we'd screw it up.
Yeah.
We're working on a couple other things. As Edwin was mentioning, we're working on getting some more VTT stuff going. We've definitely got some more adventures in the hopper. So it's definitely not something I would rule out. I just don't think it's anything we currently have an iron in the fire for. But I got a big pile of them right over here that I was painting a bunch of wall pieces with my spray booth. So definitely wouldn't.
I don't think we would do just like we're not gonna. There's no no thought of us becoming a miniature company or anything like that. So as I said, it would have to be something that, like this particular book, would be really enhanced by having this particular 3D object go with it.
This one
And
bad guy.
we would sell the object and or the STL file to go with this particular book.
How to make me a
For
chapter.
example.
No.
Be like, we've got, the one particular bad guy that's in, the big bad villain in the book, or a unique monster or something. It'd be something like that more than, we're not planning on cranking out monthly STLs. There's definitely a lot of very, very talented people that are already doing that. And I don't think we have any aspirations of getting in the way of all those guys that are already good at it.
Agreed.
Rapid Ethics should be built into VTT.
So beside,
That's funny. I know a lot of people have tried. It is an endeavor. It is not a slim book.
I think the answer is yes.
Guacamole says Monster Books. So we've got Tome of Essential Horrors
Yes.
2 coming out soon for Old School Essentials. So OSE fans will be happy to hear that. And then I can segue from there, Edwin, to turn it to you. What else do we have in the hopper?
What? I don't have any idea what's in the hopper. What are you talking about? So I did want to, for monster books, were you thinking of VTT, STLs? Now I'm so confused.
Good.
But
Cover them all.
yes, I think one of the VTT areas that we have been delinquent on is monster books, and we are definitely still trying to figure that piece of the puzzle out, because I think that would be nice to make available, and that would probably be Castles and Crusades, OSE, 5e. We could do all those pretty easily. So I think that's on the VTT side. I would say that's probably on the front burner. Suggesting that custom monster books would lend themselves to a library of STL's VTT 3D models. Yeah, that is true. I don't know that we have in us the energy to make 500 3D models. Again, because that's not. I think that would have to be a partnership with somebody who's going to do that, and we're not those people. For better or worse, we're not those people. Let's see. I think most of you were here a month or last time we were here talking, but some of you were not here. And I think the big thing we have coming up on the big book side is the Rappanathic Underrealms, which is 2 big adventure paths, if I'm allowed to use that term, both of which tie into Rappanathic in different ways and have threads or tentacles linking one to the other. And right now we have the 2 adventures written, and then Anthony Pryor is adding in just a little bit more of the interconnectivity, which I'm very excited for. And then it's trying to get that puppy edited and out to you all, because that is, I think, going to be a great, great book with 2, as I said, just 2 really involved and exciting adventures. What level ranges is the Rappanathic book? So in 5e terms, you can start at level 1 or tier 1, and then you could go all the way up to level 20. So it's all of them, and I think the new ones are relatively sort of mid to high level. One of the things we looked at recently. Am I allowed to talk about reprints, Zach? Does that seem like a fair thing to talk about?
Sure.
One of the things we looked at recently was trying to get out on Kickstarter a bunch of the things that have only been available over the past several years on Indiegogo. And we went through to look at a lot of our last 4 or 5 years of shorter adventures to figure out which ones might be the best ones to sort of start this with, because we know we have a lot of people that follow Kickstarter that are not following on Indiegogo, and we thought it'd be great to make the stuff available. And most of our stuff in 5 edition terms, caps out around 10th level or so. We have a few recent things that go up beyond that. But these adventures, these Underrealms adventures, definitely push a lot higher than that, starting at sort of a medium high to full boil, I guess, on the levels. So that's something that we are working on. I think we are still playing with, and still playing with our hex crawl excitement coming up, and that is I will say level independent, because that's really more about creating story and figuring out what goes with the hexes kind of thing, and that's exciting. And let's see what else on the big picture.
Laramie, you're on the big picture.
Laramie, yep. Well, shout it out there, man. Shout out, Mr. Customer Care, Castles and Crusades, CC. What do we got going there?
Yeah, that's a good point. CC, Laramie CC.
I've got about 130 monsters done for a Castles and Crusades book that at some point I should probably have someone start looking at to make sure my format's not just completely borked. So that's plugging away.
You can pass that my way.
Okay. I'm up to M, so coming along nicely. So, that's going good. Just got to put the needle in the groove and let the record play. Again, that was another thing, talking about running at GaryCon, that was one other minor complication to having not read the adventure, was I was also running 5e adventures in Castles and Crusades. So while I was reading the adventure, I also elected to convert the monsters on the fly, and that went pretty well. Ooh, cool. If I can bore everyone with one more from the story table. One more from the table story.
Oh, do it.
So running the Heart of St. Bathis bit that I ran, it was from the Prelude, blah, blah, blah. MacGuffin, collect 3 parts, put them together, and then you have to do something with the MacGuffin. They didn't know what the thing was going to be. So they go around, they catch all the disparate parts, and before the game, nobody had ever played Castles and Crusades. One guy had the player's book, but he hadn't really played it. Everybody's from a 5e background, except for one guy was from an AD&D background. So there's a couple little speed bumps of, do I have free actions? No. Do I have attacks of opportunity? No. Like, this is just, you have an action. And they all did great with it. Everybody had a fantastic time. But at one point, they opened up a door, and I said, okay, its back's facing to you, but it hears you open the door. This, 12 or 20 foot long, 8 foot high red dragon turns to face you. And a couple of the guys are like, oh, well, that obviously it's an illusion. There's no way he's going to have 3rd level characters fight a red dragon. And the ADD goes, oh, yeah, he is. You should close that door. They're coming. And so they close the door, and they're like, okay. And I said, okay. And at this point, fire starts coming from around the doorway. So, okay, that's definitely a red dragon. We're not going through there. Yeah. So the adventure goes on. They find all 3 parts. They figure out the other side of the room, so they know that they've gotten around it. And so they get the 3 parts to do the stuff. And I was like, just to accelerate things, I'm going to say that it starts glowing as they get closer to where it needs to go. So they get to what they don't know it's the final room yet, but they're outside the final room, and there are 2 guards there. And they knock one out, and they charm the other one. And I said, okay, roll the d4. 3. Okay, you have 30 seconds to ask him whatever you want, and then the charm's going to wear off, and you have to fight him. Okay, cool. What's the biggest thing in that room? The Guardian. How do I kill it? You can't. What are its weaknesses? It doesn't have any. How do I defeat it? It's undefeatable. And that's your 30 seconds. So they go in the room, and the only feature in the room is a sarcophagus right in the middle of the room. And the gnomish illusionist goes, I'm going to go push open the lid of the sarcophagus. And I said, okay, roll a d20. 6. No chance. But when you do, this giant menacing figure comes floating out, like this ghostly visage comes out from the sarcophagus, and the fight ensues, and everybody starts fighting it, because that's obviously what you do. It's there to fight. They fought this thing for 20 minutes. And finally the one guy goes, does it look like we've hurt this thing? Nope. And they kind of look at me and, guys, what did you do right before you went in the room? And then they put the thing in the sarcophagus. The fight was over 60 seconds later. A couple of the guys looked a little irritated. the AD&D guy was laughing hysterically, going, "You told me the answer. You gave me the answer, and I ignored it. I went directly into the room and went to fighty mode and completely ignored everything you had told me. And I know better. I've been trained to know better, and you rope-a-doped it. You got me." And I just really enjoyed that guy getting a kick out of that. So, yeah, that one was
That
fun.
stuff always happens.
Yeah.
Hey, I have another stream I have to go to. I want to thank everybody for being here and helping wishing us a happy birthday. We wouldn't be here without any of you guys, and so it's been awesome. So
Yeah, but I do want to talk about
one
that
for
as well. So if you want to
So
start,
we're on April 1st.
add two. It's not April 1st yet. This is the players say, "Hey, man, the rule book's done." So it's just a matter of the other pieces. But
Oh, today's April 1st. Anyway, I'll see you guys later.
See you, Zach.
See you there. All right, well, now that guy's gone.
yeah,
Bill, was there something you wanted to throw in there with your book in hand?
Okay, for those of you who don't know, and probably everyone or almost everyone who's on here has heard about this already, but we did a pre-release of my home campaign rules and the rules that I've used at conventions. So if you guys have ever played with me, you've played these rules before, but it's something I started writing back in like 2009 and then never did because we got involved with Matt and Swords and Wizardry. And so we did the like I said, the rule book is about that big. That doesn't include spells or monsters or magic items or encounter tables or any of that other stuff. And if I actually wasn't planning on being sick all week, or I probably would have the monsters about done. I finished the demons, Edwin, so I'm all the way to dinosaur in the monster books.
Oh, that's like halfway through.
Just about, yeah.
You're done with the
I
Ds.
haven't done dragons yet, but I'm done with demons. So we're going to put out a box set of my rules later this year. We're going to have a Kickstarter for it. It's going to have, like I said, I've got the spells done and edited. I've got the rule book done and edited. The encounter table's done and almost edited, except we found a typo that made werewolves occur 28% of the time every time we roll dice in the mountains. So that has to be fixed. And then I'm working on the monster books. That is going to take me another 3 weeks, I think, to get those done. And then I have to do magic items. And then there's a couple other small ancillary bits that are getting fit in there. But we're going to actually have a box set for, I'm going to call it advanced white box rules, for lack of a better phrase, called the Necromancer's Game. And that Kickstarter will be later this year, probably summertime. I'm going to make the boys do it extra fancy, like in one of those iPhone box things that we did the Swords and Wizardry rules set in. It's got some really skookum art that Robert Altbauer did for me that looks like the Bayou Tapestry. I'll have to stop talking so I can show it to you because I can't hold my button down. But, stuff like this.
Yeah, the art's fantastic.
Yeah.
The art's very lovely.
The art's really good. And then we have a lot of pieces like that. Then we have some more conventional pieces as well. But the art's really good. I just really want to get my own rule set done so that, And by the way, we sold all of the copies of the pre-release at the show, except for the last 5 or 6 that were people who had pinged me on Facebook that are getting shipped tomorrow. So, and any of you who haven't received a book, if you ordered it in the last week or so, I'm sorry, man, I haven't been able to do anything besides lay in bed. But Joanne and I are packing everything up tomorrow. But anyway, I'm pretty excited about that, and I think we're getting close on having the manuscript finished. And then Jeff will do his voodoo on the other bits.
Awesome.
A lot of it, those of you who haven't played White Box, the hard part about the monsters and the magic items is converting everything over to D6 based stuff. So you can't have a monster do 5 attacks or he'll kill the whole party type thing. It's a lower level of, there's a lot less dice rolling in White Box.
I'm going to head off shortly to play my Monday evening Call of Cthulhu game, but that reminds me that one of the things I'm excited about coming up on our short adventure side is way less exciting than Bill's rulebook. But John Hook has something with us, Renewal at Crater Lake. He's done a bunch of Call of Cthulhu stuff and a couple things for us, and he's got a really nice dark sense of adventure. And that one should be coming out in the next month, I think, on Indiegogo. And I'm particularly excited with that. And then he has another one in the hopper that he's working on the manuscript for, so that'll be coming up down the road from now. So yeah, John is back. So let me turn it over to our giveaway folks. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, Mike and Laramie, you guys are going to get ditched pretty quick here, too, because my daughter's home, so I'm going to go have dinner with them.
That's fine.
We usually roll dice or something, always.
We usually target about an hour, so that is just fine.
Okay, perfect.
All right. I've got... I still haven't, honestly, frankly, I haven't really unpacked from GaryCon yet. So tonight's dice will be brought to you by the electronic dice on this monitor. And it's going to be... Counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what I'm showing for 4... Varsuk and guacamole. Ooh, Goovaway. I like Goovaway. That's like the one I always use on Troll Lords when I go for what is it? It's I always misspell theirs on purpose, and I can't think what the typo is. So yeah, you two and Foxy and Dan from last month, I still owe all of you. Raffle, that's right, Kingsley. I always put in waffle because I think I love waffles instead of raffle. Yeah, you folks get a hold of me, PM me on Discord, and we'll straighten something out. Coupons are getting a little funky because I'm having an issue with just doing electronic only, so we'll figure something out.
Michael's really good at it.
Michael needs more stuff on his plate.
at that coupon thing, just so good at that.
One more thing. I believe a week from Thursday, we're launching a humble bundle in conjunction with Kobold Press, and it's to support children in war-torn zones. And as there are 2 pretty big ones of those right now, we thought that was the right charity to do support for. But I think the bundle value is like $2,600, $2,700. It's Pathfinder stuff, so maybe it doesn't hit kind of our core audience, but it's the biggest. I think it's going to be the biggest RPG bundle ever done. And I think you get like $2,800 of stuff from us and Kobold Press for like, it might be $20 or $19. I don't remember exactly the dollar amount, but it's not very much. And it again, a lot of the money is going to go to a really good cause. So please like and share when you see it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was
much needed thing to be doing.
It's about $2,600 worth of MSRP material.
Humble bundle?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go, Kingsley.
Yeah, I compiled the list last week. I have the bags under my eyes to show.
Hey, keep those lists because sometimes I need those when people need stuff back again. So having a list would be advantageous. We can start filing those somewhere.
All right, guys, I gotta make like a baby and head out. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Appreciate it. Thank you for your support, and boys, I'll send you money tomorrow when I'm awake.
I remain.
Good. Thanks, Bill.
I owe these guys money. So have a good night, everyone.
If he's gonna be that tired, I should
Bill.
I should jack my bill way up since Bill's apparently going to be half asleep for it.
Exactly. Just add a 0 on the end of it.
I can get $30. You're saying, instead of 3.
Yes, you too can get $30.
I was gonna have Bill when I think it was Kingsley was mentioning making tens of dollars. I was gonna point out to him. I was gonna have Bill pitch this because I remember Bill specifically telling someone how to get rich in the gaming industry. He told them, if you want to have $1 million in an RPG company, you should start with 2. That's how you get to $1 million. So
and then work for 10 years.
Yeah, and you will whittle that $2 million.
That's the Gygax quote. How do you become a millionaire in gaming? Start off as a billionaire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. Those oven bakes. We got to work on that.
As I said, I'm going to go join my Skype with the of Cthulhu crowd on that old platform. So
watch your sanity.
I will watch it leak out my ears.
Is there anyone I should be?
Thank you all.
Is there anybody I should be cursing from here? Anybody I know on your game?
Sean Murphy, do you know him?
I think I know his Discord. I think is
very unlikely.
Okay, then it's a different Murphy. Then probably not.
Different, yeah, it's one of like 2 or 3 in the world only.
Hey, listen, Laramie doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, I don't have that problem either. All right, guys.
All right.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody out there.
All right.
That's awesome.
So yeah, Tim, Foxy, Varsuk, Guacamole, hit me up. We'll figure this out. And since everybody was again wanting these recorded, we've recorded this one, and I'll figure out how to post this up somewhere. You all.
So, Laramie, they're going to go to YouTube?
I don't know. We could get a YouTube channel.
We do have a Frog God channel.
Do we? I should look into that.
We do.
I'm making a note of that. YouTube. All right, cool. We'll look into that too. All right. Kingsley, that's awesome. We'll talk about that. All right. Folks, have a good night. I'm going to go see how, I'm guessing the Iowa basketball game is over. I'm going to see how the Iowa women did. So, good night, everybody.
Thanks again, everybody.